What bothers you more? That your greatest failure has returned from the grave? Or that I've become a better Batman than you?
You are nothing to me. One by one, I will destroy you.
This is your captain speaking. Thank you for flying Superman Airlines. Fasten your seatbelts.
Things conspiracies with him.
Not conspiracies. Conspiracy. Singular.
You'd be amazed the monsters this world can create.
But there is one thing you do need to know. Behind this mask is the face of a friend.
The Amalgam Universe is one of my all-time favorites when it comes to odd Marvel worlds. It exists as a bridge between both the Marvel Multiverse and the DC Multiverse. To this day, I still cannot believe Amalgam was allowed to happen. And it gives me hope that maybe one day we could see a live-action crossover film or TV series between the big two publishers of Marvel and DC. The Amalgam Universe first appeared in a series of 12 one-shots that were all part of the DC Marvel crossover event. Right near the end, they all kind of came in. The Amalgam Universe doesn't have one designated number, as both Marvel and DC have their own assigned numbers for this Earth. Also, the Amalgam Universe only existed in print for 2 short years, from 1996 to 1997. Rest in peace. However, I still hope to one day see its return in print or on the big screen. Fingers crossed. I love this reality. It's one that might seem odd though when you think about what is actually able to happen here. In Reality 8, 2 heroes from different worlds ended up in a relationship and they settled down and even got married. This reality is believed to be an alternate future of Earth 65, where Gwen hails from normally. Here, Miles and Gwen ended up getting married, settling down, and even having kids together. They are also both celebrities in this world thanks to their superhero status as both Spider-Man and Spider-Woman respectively. Their 2 kids also grow up to become superheroes, joining this Earth's multiversal superhero Spider-Verse team, the Amazing 8. The team includes the whole family, both Miles and Gwen and their children, Spider-Boy and Spider-Girl, as well as Spider-Ham, Spider, aka Penny Parker, an alternate version of Jerry Drew, son of Spider-Woman Jessica Drew, and an alternate Spider-Woman who is also an alternate Kraven, or possibly a member of the Kravinoff clan. Number 8. Earth X. This is an interesting one. Thank you to Zocker JHD for the suggestion on the part 1 in this series, and for reminding me of this amazing world. Earth X is a really dramatic world with some really beautiful artwork from Alex Ross. Earth X was created by both Ross and Jim Krueger. In this reality, everything ties back pretty much to the Celestials, Deviants, Eternals, superpowered humans, mutants, Inhumans, even Mephisto ties back to the Celestials here. Here, Mar-Vell ends up acquiring power through Kronos. This grants him cosmic awareness, which allows him to see the full extent to which the Elders of the Universe and the Celestials were involved in manipulating the entire cosmos. He allows himself to die so that he can enact a plan to stop the Elders. Eventually, Mar-Vell is granted the Enigma Force, even in death, and sets out to stop the meddling of the Celestials and the Elders, planning to free all those who have died by killing the Elder Death. Because yeah, Death is an Elder of the Universe here. Number 7. Mangaverse. There have actually been a few different universes that involve manga, and in fact a few different Marvel mangas that I myself have stumbled upon in bookshops. I really want to read the Deadpool manga if I'm being honest. But for this list we're focusing on Earth 2301, also known as the Mangaverse. The main one, that is. The Mangaverse first appeared in 2002 in Marvel Mangaverse New Dawn issue number 1. Although I actually think there was an earlier version of it that did appear, but I think they kind of reset it and like changed the number a little bit. So yeah, it's been going on since the early 2000s though, which is quite some time. And also, what a time. I feel like that's when I started getting into manga, the early 2000s, so makes sense to me. Number 6. What if World War II was fought in outer space? A classic what if tale, one that imagines what if Sergeant Nick Fury fought World War II all the way up in space. And of course, instead of the fight being just against the Axis and Germany, the Howling Commandos in this issue are also taking on aliens. This alternate reality comes from the 1977 What If series in issue number 14. This is the first volume of What If. In issue number 14, the reality comes to be as the answer to the question, what if Sergeant Nick Fury had fought World War II in outer space. The aliens in question that they are also fighting here are known as the Baytans, who have joined forces with Baron Strucker. This issue seems to be inspired by a love of other prominent sci-fi properties of the time, including Battlestar Galactica and Star Wars, which are also both mentioned on the cover. Good way to get you to read the comic. They're like, do you like these things? You'll like this what if? Number 5. Marvel Anime. I don't know what's weirder, really, the mangaverse of Marvel or the anime universe, which also exists. That's right, Marvel made anime versions of some of their most famous characters. The anime universe did not last long though, only having one season that was 12 episodes long, because yes, this is an actual anime I'm talking about. It ran from 2010 to 2011. Honestly, I kind of want to watch all of it after seeing only like a little part of the first episode. It is very anime, right down to the intro, and also some of this animation looks pretty good, I gotta say. The first episode is about Iron Man, whose origin is more in line with his MCU one than his comic book counterpart here. In this reality, Iron Man is basically looking to retire and is kind of looking into building armor suits that he could use to replace him. However, when the villain Scorpio appears on the scene, he is forced to take action as the hero, Iron Man. Number 4. Captain America married Iron Man. Or rather, I guess I should say Iron Woman? In this reality, Tony wasn't Tony, but instead was born Natasha Stark, being born a woman. Natasha would grow up to become the hero Iron Woman and would actually fall in love with Captain America, and eventually marry him. Because of the success of their romantic relationship, the first Civil War never happened in this reality. There was a superhero registration program, however, but no one argued over it, and it was actually started by this universe's Reed Richards. This Earth is known as Earth 3490 and is an alternate one that Mr. Fantastic glimpses while perusing various realities where the first Civil War had a different outcome. Number 3. Marvel Apes, also known as the Apeverse or the Monkeyverse. Monkeyverse. In this reality, all the heroes and villains of Earth that you are used to seeing are all apes or monkeys. Also, heroes and villains actually die in this reality. In fact, if a villain is captured and brought to justice, they are demanded to reform, and if they actually choose to refuse that, they end up being beaten by heroes until they are, well, permanently defeated, let's just say. Also, the Captain America of this universe ended up being frozen in an iceberg and replaced by Baron Blood. So in this reality, the invaders were actually all transformed into vampires. Years later, Gorilla Captain America is thawed and must join the fight against the vampires of the world. It's got apes, it's got monkeys, it's got vampires, it's got everything. Captain America teams up with the Ape-Vengers, and after defeating the vampire invaders, takes on the role of team leader. Number 2. Avengers Mech Strike. The Mech Strike universe is just an odd one because in this universe, all the Avengers operate with mechs. Oh, and they had to team up with Thanos in an effort to stop Kang. Oh, and in this reality, Kang wiped the floor with Thanos. When you think about it, all of these things are pretty weird occurrences. However, I will say I do like the look of the mechs in this universe. Truly, the designs here feel like something I want to own in a collectible form of some kind. I have some of the mech Lego sets from Marvel and Lego, and I feel like the Mech Strike reality in and of itself would make for a cool series of sets, or you know, maybe one giant set with all of the mechs in it. That would be pretty cool. The reason that the Avengers in this reality get mechs in the first place is because they figure out the best way to defeat Kang's biomechanoids is to suit up in their own vibranium mech suits that Iron Man dubs biomechanoid response units. Although I gotta be fair and also mention that T'Challa was actually the one to figure this out, so basically, good job Black Panther, you figured it out! Vibranium, it's the way to defeat them. Number 1. Marvel. What a weird comic. In this story, we get to see what happens when you take a bunch of inside jokes and try to turn them into a cohesive story, or something? I think that's what is meant to be happening in this miniseries, but don't quote me. This miniseries is confusing, even for advanced comic book readers like myself who have read tons of comics at this point. In this comic, a lot of strange things happen, but it seems it's all done to make fun of the Marvel and DC universes, the whole superhero genre in general, and the distinguished competition, aka DC Comics. However, that doesn't mean that anything here makes sense. In fact, I can't make sense of almost any of it. This alternate reality takes place in the future in the year 5002 AD. Here, the AOL company basically becomes powerful enough to lead the planet, I think. People can also seemingly karate chop meteors as they fall from the sky, and eventually we travel back in time to discover that Wolverine started off the whole human race after evolving from an otter. That's really what happens in it. I think. That's what I got. Number 10, Miracle Man. It's kind of weird to think, but Miracle Man exists over at Marvel Comics. Although admittedly, the story of Miracle Man feels like it would fit perhaps a bit better over at a publisher like Dynamite Entertainment based on the story. It seems like a narrative that would fit more comfortably next to Dynamite's The Boys. It's a bleak story about a madman who experimented on basically young orphans using alien tech in order to try and create the perfect being. The power that they wield, however, comes both with perks as well as devastating setbacks, with the young sidekick of Marvel Man, later renamed Miracle Man, actually being driven mad by the power he wields and ending up ultimately becoming the world's greatest supervillain, despite inside still just being a young boy. When you think about it, it's pretty crazy to think that Miracle Man is like a part of Marvel. That's wild. Of course, at least it's self-contained within its own world, but still, it's a pretty dark story over there in Earth 18. And friends, before we move on to our next spot on this list, if you love what we do here at Top 10 Nerd, why not show us you love us by clicking that like button? Like it. Number 9, Larval Earth. Larval Earth is one of the names given to the homeworld of Spider-Ham. Here, all superheroes and supervillains are anthropomorphic creatures. This world is also similar in its style to classic animated slapstick cartoons such as Bugs Bunny. In my book, the cartoon physics involved here also makes Spider-Ham one of the most powerful Spider-Man alternates around, as he can pretty much survive almost anything and never really has to fear dying. This Earth is designated Earth 8311. Number 8, the Cancerverse. The Cancerverse is a reality that almost threatens to take over the rest of the multiverse, if you can believe it. In this universe, life finally beat death, which was completely eradicated. Now, while this might sound pretty good on paper, I mean, not dying sounds pretty great, in practice it actually was not so great. This is because of the manner in which it was eradicated, and also because without death there is nothing to keep life in check, so it kind of runs rampant and becomes terrible. The universe as a result became corrupted, basically turning into a living corpse. This reality came to be because Marvel's Captain Marvel made a deal with the Many-Angled Ones to cure his cancer. As a result, this universe ended up being infiltrated by the Many-Angled Ones, who are basically like the elder gods of Marvel Comics, and they bent the entire universe to their will. Number 7, Marvel Zombies. While it might seem kind of atypical to pick Marvel Zombies for this list, it still is a world that I cannot believe exists. It's so terrifying. What's more, I can't believe this is a project we could be seeing reimagined as an animated or even live action series, as Marvel did announce that it would be coming to Disney+. That's right, we're supposed to get a Marvel Zombies series, I believe. Of course, I haven't really heard anything since that announcement that it was going to be coming and that it would be written by Zeb Wells, but I'm still super intrigued by the idea even of this adaptation. Marvel Zombies is a surprisingly gruesome, brutal, and bloody world in Marvel Comics, so it's definitely a weird one. Number 6, Loom World. Loom World is an interesting place. One, this is actually known as Earth 001, which is odd because the number 1 would imply it's more original in its existence than other Earths, including the main comic book continuity of Earth 616, which, you know, is the main one, so you'd think that would be one. And it's also the home of the Inheritors, who are basically cosmic multiversal energy vampires. However, it also kind of makes sense that this is considered Earth 001. Ashur and Gaia, powerful gods, once resided here along with many other gods and goddesses. Earth 001 was then the nexus of the multiverse. They tasked their daughters to basically come up with a system that they might use to map out the multiverse, since, you know, that was the nexus. Their daughter, Shathra, created the Great Hive, while their daughter Neith created the Great Web. Between the two, Neith's design was preferred. However, this caused Shathra to rage. Becoming consumed by her jealousy, Shathra turned monstrous and became focused on devouring the protectors of the multiverse, who we'd come to know as spider totems. That's the story of the Spider-Verse. Well, not entirely, but that's a part of it. Number 5, Magical Girl. Not the name of this reality, but it's what I'm calling it. The original Penny Parker is already a wild enough and super cool character in the Marvel multiverse. But of course, Marvel had to go even further with this alternate version of Spider-Man by also making an alternate version of this alternate, turning her into a magical girl? In Marvel's Contest of Champions, there is an alternate version of Penny who is said to hail from Earth 23. In this reality, she met a magical creature which granted her powers, turning her into a magical guardian and warrior. She fights against evil with the power of friendship and love. Sound familiar to you? Initially, the Earth she hailed from, Earth 23, was also known as the Mangaverse, which would make sense, but the number for the Mangaverse would actually later be changed to Earth 2301. So now Earth 23, I guess, is just like another Mangaverse, but only in Contest of Champions, is a thing. Number 4, Ruins. Probably one of, if not the bleakest Marvel universes in existence. Ruins leaves me reeling every time I return to it. What can be said of this reality that I haven't said already? It was made to be kind of the antithesis to the normal Marvel fare, the opposite of the main continuity, if you will, and really, it did succeed there. No power comes without some level of disturbing sacrifice or tragedy in Ruins, which is what makes it so terrible, but also, in a way, kinda great, because it is very different. I don't know if it's different in a good way, though. Number 3, Doctor Who Universe. Doctor Who actually exists in the Marvel Multiverse, if you can believe that. This is because back in the 80s, Marvel actually published a series based on the famous television series of the same name. The comic was known as Doctor Who Monthly. The universe in Marvel that the Doctor exists in and hails from is known as Earth 5556. And while Doctor Who may now be a property whose comics are published by Titan Comics, the fact still remains that because Marvel did have the rights in the 80s, technically the Doctor does exist in the ever-expanding Marvel Multiverse. Somewhere out there, the Doctor's running around, working on timey-wimey, time-traveling stuff, which is pretty wild to think about. And within that series itself, other alternate universes were also explored that are likely also tied to the main Marvel Doctor Who universe, the continuity, the Earth of 5556. So in a way, there is like a Doctor Who multiverse that exists within the Marvel multiverse. Multiverses on multiverses. And there you go. There's a single multiverse at least that exists within a multiverse. Woo! Number 2, Hostess Snacks. If you can believe it, there is a whole reality based off of the advertisements in Marvel Comics. That's right, that's a thing! The Hostess Snacks advertisements. This is a wonderful world where heroes simply use snacks to defeat their villains, who are often all just kind of riled up because they're hungry. That tends to be part of the themes of the stories often. Sad, really, but I get it. When I get really hungry, I know I definitely feel like a pull towards the dark side is coming from within my stomach, and I am drawn towards committing crimes. I have to resist. I reach for that Hostess snack. I'm like, I feel better. In this reality, heroes would use various Hostess snacks to appease and often redeem their enemies. Sadly, not every character here lived a happy life, and the golden sponge cake alternate Spider-Man of this reality did end up being one of the many who was killed during Spider-Verse by the evil inheritor known as Morlun. So sad. If you aren't certain what an inheritor is, they're the cosmic energy vampires I was talking about earlier with Loomworld. In fact, the Earth and realm ends up as their headquarters after they force the Master Weaver to do their bidding. The reality of Earth 001, not the Hostess Cakes reality. Although that would be pretty funny if they were like, you know what, why don't we just chill here. We got all the Hostess snacks we could need. Too bad we don't eat them because we're energy vampires. We really only eat like spider totems, but yeah. Number 1, America's Best Comics. This one was actually super interesting to me, as it actually ties back to some comic book history, which I personally really love diving into myself, so I'm gonna take you on a journey with me. This Earth is known as Earth 10 in the Marvel Multiverse, but I'm still not sure if it's ever been like officially designated as Earth 10, so this may be actually an unofficial alternate Earth mentioned outside of Marvel. I mean, normally we have a temporal reality number or a temporary reality number when it isn't official, but I don't know. I'm not sure. I did some research into this and I was only able to find out so much, so if you know more, share with me in the comments. Earth 10 is what I could find this world designated as, official or not, as being the home of America's Best Comics, which was actually a Wildstorm imprint created by Alan Moore, which is pretty crazy to think. Now Wildstorm is an imprint at DC, but before Wildstorm was its own thing, and then America's Best Comics was an imprint there. America's Best Comics had multiple series under its umbrella, one of them being, get this, a comic called Top 10, which was not a series about this channel, but instead a unique take on a police procedural, which took place in a city where everyone had superpowers, a sort of like citywide kind of retirement community for superheroes from across the multiverse, across the omniverse you might even say. Among those spotted there was Marvel's famous Wolverine, whether the Wolverine from the main continuity or the Wolverine of Earth 10 or the Wolverine from somewhere else, we don't really know. The other interesting thing is that DC characters also apparently appeared, although I'm not sure if any of the characters to appear from the big two, at least not initially, were actually official, or if they were just characters that looked very very similar, but you know, we never really said their names. DC would end up acquiring Jim Lee's Wildstorm, and with it Alan Moore's imprint of America's Best Comics, or ABC as it's sometimes referred to. This was controversial as well at the time, as Moore had actually sworn at that point to never work with DC again, but apparently Lee had only found that out after he had made the deal with DC. Fortunately for Lee, Moore wasn't too bothered by the decision and managed to accept it and kind of roll along, even though it went against what he had initially said. He was able to move forward from it. America's Best Comics, or the ABC universe, as it is often known, still apparently exists today as the alternate reality of Earth 25 over at DC, which definitely makes sense since, you know, they kind of also bought that, and the alternate world of Earth 10 over at Marvel, which, as I said, I'm still a little, I don't really know what's official and what's not. Woo! Now I need to go back and read top 10. Sounds super cool. Number 10, Speeding Bullets. Basically a multiversal DC Elseworld story that answers the question, what if Superman didn't just have powers but was also rich? That's basically what is going on here in Speeding Bullets. In this story, Superman wasn't raised by the Kents, but instead was taken in and adopted by the Waynes, and he becomes, you guessed it, Bruce Wayne. After the death of Thomas and Martha, Bruce becomes Batman, but the difference is this version of Batman has tech, money, smarts, and superpowers. Lex also becomes a mess of a villain in this world. While still being Superman's nemesis, he's also Batman's nemesis rolled into one, with an extra little dash of Penguin, just for good measure, I guess. So here we get a villain who is Lex, Joker, and the Penguin all in one. Oh goody, just what none of us necessarily wanted or needed. And yet, we got it. This also doesn't do much to enhance his motivation for villainy, which, like his identity, is also kind of all over the place. Still, the premise behind this Elseworld story is pretty cool, but unfortunately it doesn't add enough when it comes to offering a twist or different perspective to either the Superman or Batman mantle. Number 9, Batman and Captain America. A gloriously weird and awesome comic. This DC multiversal story also happens to be a DC Marvel crossover issue featuring Batman, his sidekick Robin, and Captain America and his sidekick Bucky. Both Cap and Batman end up joining together and then swapping sidekicks. Their villains also seem to have a team up as Red Skull and Joker come together, but this is also the famous issue that Joker insists that Red Skull is too evil even for him. He may be a criminal lunatic, but after all, he's an American criminal lunatic, and he can't stand by when it comes to abiding by Red Skull's history and motivations. So not only do we get to see some great team-ups, but we also get to see a full-out fight break out between these two iconic villains. Thanks, John Byrne. And friends, before we move on to this next spot, if you love Elseworld stories and all of the weird, wacky things that go on in the multiverse when it comes to just alternate worlds, let us know by giving this video a thumbs up, and hey, maybe we can do some more Elseworlds lists for you. Cause yeah, there's lots of kooky stories out there. Number 8, the Superman monster. Frankenstein, but make it Superman. There are lots of retellings of classic tales when we look into the realm of Elseworlds, and the story of Frankenstein is not one that is left untouched. Actually, I feel like this story gets interpreted a few times throughout the Elseworld stories. I feel like I've seen at least 3 different versions of Frankenstein retold in Elseworlds. I still have yet to see Dr. Seuss retellings though in the world of DC, which are some classic kids tales that do eke their way surprisingly into Marvel at times. In the Superman monster, Lex Luthor takes the role of creator and Superman ends up as his monster. You might think this sounds familiar considering it's also kind of the premise for the main continuity origin story of Bizarro, but this creation, while starting out similar to Bizarro, eventually goes full-on hero and full-on Superman by the end of it. That means in this story of Frankenstein, the creator ends up the monster, while the monster ends up the hero. What a twist. Number 7, Justice Riders. Because it's an inevitability that at some point, we have to turn to the Wild West for inspiration when it comes to an Elseworld story. We've gotta go there at some point. And so we have Justice Riders. Justice Riders reimagines the DC universe as existing during the time of the Wild West and adapts the characters to kind of fit their surroundings somewhat. As such, Wonder Woman becomes a Texan sounding sheriff, and Martian Manhunter gets to sport a poncho and a cowboy hat. Which honestly, this is one you might want to check out just for that, cause that's great. This is the Wild West, baby. There are also plenty of shootouts and bar brawls, some with cyborg enemies involved. As ridiculous as this premise is, I will say it's executed well and it also looks fantastic, so Number 6. The Reaching Hand. Honestly, what a strange story this one is. It features Batman as an occult detective trying to solve the mystery of Elongated Man's death. Unfortunately, it seems as though Elongated Man wasn't alone in his body, and there was a force of darkness within him who continues to seek to spread gloom and doom wherever it can. This story features a lot of restless nights for Bruce as well, and unfortunately, he ends up too late to save Jimmy Olsen. Not Jimmy Olsen, who ends up brutally murdered by Swirly. At least that's what it looks like to me. He's just head down in the toilet and they're like, he's been murdered. Or he was just being mistreated by the other staff at his workplace, but no, he's dead. Death by Swirly. Bruce also is too late to save his friends or Gotham in the end. At least that's what's implied. This one ends pretty bleakly, so yeah. Also, this is back from when we had like Elseworlds, like giant sizes, so there would be like a bunch of short stories in there. Kinda like What If, and I like that style. More stories though than What If, because those are normally 2. Sometimes only 1. Number 5. Elseworld's finest, Supergirl/Batgirl. You can't go wrong with a jacked Joker when it comes to weird multiversal stories. Looking real jacked, baby! Elseworld's finest is weird but also kind of cool. It focuses on Barbara Gordon and Kara Zor-El, Batgirl and Supergirl respectively, who are guardians of Gotham and Metropolis, as in this world, there was never a Batman or a Superman. The two of them team up to take on the manipulative and traitorous Lex Luthor, and as I said, a really swole version of the Joker. It's a strange one, but it's also kind of a great one. Number 4. Batman/the Demon, a tragedy. In this Elseworld story, we get to explore a horrifying fantastical world where magic exists. Here, Bruce Wayne is not the Batman, instead suffering from an allergy to moonlight. He is a restless sleeper, and it turns out this is because he's actually bonded to the demon Etrigan. Oh my goodness. It takes Bruce a while to figure this out though, but in the end, he is too late to save his girlfriend Glenda. Poor Glenda. The best thing he can do according to Merlin is to wipe his memory, which will also mean he has no recollection of Glenda. Oh no. Merlin claims that this will save her. Unfortunately, it doesn't, as Etrigan taking over Bruce in the nighttime does end up still killing her. But hey, at least Bruce doesn't remember her, which actually seems to have been Merlin's plan all along. You see, in order to keep the demon trapped within Bruce, his forgetfulness is necessary. There is no way to save Glenda really in any case, most likely, and Merlin was just saying that to try to get Bruce to, do what he wanted him to do. But hey, at least Bruce doesn't remember her, so at least he won't be sad about it. Number 3. Brotherhood of the Bat. Have you ever wondered to yourself what the DC universe would be like if every member of the League of Assassins was dressed up and also weirdly happened to resemble Batman? No? Me neither. But too bad, because we get to know what that would be like in this Elseworld story. I mean, not even too bad, it's kind of really great in a weird way. Brotherhood of the Bat takes place in a post-apocalyptic future where Ra's al Ghul decides that the League of Assassins, they need some new costumes. New Bat-themed costumes that all very much resemble alternative takes on Batman's outfits. Also, check out some of the notes on Ra's al Ghul's design sketches here. That is honestly my favorite part of this story. Just seeing all these, like there's like little notes in red. It's like, is this cape too much? You can never have too much cape, just so you know. Just so you know, Raish, no such thing. Number 2. Batman Nosferatu. If you want something weird in a sort of horror-based and very artistic way, we've got you. Batman Nosferatu is actually part of an Elseworld story series that delve into the German Expressionist period. This story seems to take some inspiration from Nosferatu and the Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. Not only is the art style very different and unique, but the whole tone and the style of the dialogue is as well. The story has a lot going on, but mainly it follows the horrors of Dr. Arkham. To give you like the briefest summary ever, because as I said, there's a lot going on in this story, it's also quite long. The story mainly centers around Dr. Arkham and his experiments and creations, including one called the Laughing Man. Oh, I wonder who that's supposed to be. A reanimated creature made from various corpse parts. In the end, Bruce Wayne's son ends up dying and is resurrected as the Nosferatu, sort of cyborg monster creature who ends up taking on and defeating the Laughing Man. I wonder who Nosferatu is supposed to stand for here. Any guesses? Number 1. Batman/Lobo. Like all of the weirdest comic stories out there across the multiverse, this one also features Lobo. Here, Joker hires the mercenary to ruin Batman's reputation and then finally kill his nemesis. Lobo sets out dressed as Batman and begins to muck up the streets, killing Batman's villains in gruesome ways to make sure that people know that Batman is no hero. He's like, what, does Batman have a no-kill policy? Pfft, not anymore. Also, the deaths have to be gruesome because this is a Lobo comic after all, so yeah, they're all pretty... there's something. I don't even know if we can show them here. In the end, the Joker is forced to call off Lobo after it's revealed that Batman is actually his long-lost twin brother, Bruce Wayne. You see, Joey and Bruce were apparently separated at a young age. I mean, does it get any weirder than this? Number 10. Tales from the Dark Multiverse, Batman Hush. I actually really love this story, but it's also kinda out there, especially when you consider it has its own sort of theme song and a very creepy tone. In Tales from the Dark Multiverse Hush, Bruce Wayne is the one who becomes a version of the Hush character. It would be more accurate though to say that he becomes a version of Hush and Batman if they were kinda like combined together. Here, Thomas Elliot instead becomes a rich billionaire playboy and also corrupt senator, allying himself with Talia al Ghul. He manages to make it so that Bruce was locked away in Arkham Asylum. Despite feeling slightly guilty about doing this to his childhood friend, overall Elliot is pretty okay with the way Bruce is imprisoned and treated there. However, after faking his death, Bruce Wayne manages to escape Arkham and becomes Elliot's worst nightmare. And just for a fun fact, he doesn't go by Hush in this one though, he's the Silenced. Shh. Get it? Still like Hush. Number 9. JLA the Nail. This is an Elseworld story that centers around a literal nail. The nail in question is one that punches Martha and Jonathan Kent's tire, thereby preventing them from intercepting and adopting little baby Kal-El, who would grow up to become Superman. Or at least he would have grown up to become Superman if that's what happened. In this world, instead, there is seemingly no Superman. As such, Lex Luthor is successful in making the JLA a band of outlaws. Instead of them being celebrated heroes, they're kind of considered to be somewhat criminal, despite of course their noble intentions. What I will say is at least a lot of this artwork is pretty good. Most of the limited series ends up being kinda dull, save for a few scenes and plot points. The parts that I found the most interesting were one where Selina gets therapy while sexy posing on a desk, another being a fight involving Joker with anti-grav mitts versus Batman, which takes place after Joker has successfully killed Batgirl and Robin. Batman ends up broken as a result of the Joker's actions here. We later learn that the Superman of this universe is basically a very sensitive Jimmy Olsen who is bonded with the remaining traces of Kal-El's DNA found in this crash-landed spaceship. Jimmy doesn't like it when people laugh at him. He ends up in a fight with the real Kal-El, another interesting part of the 3-issue series, who it turns out was adopted by the Amish, hence why he never became a hero, as he preferred to stay within his community. So we get an Amish Superman, and then we also get Jimmy Olsen Superman, but he's pretty much evil. Also, what is that costume he's wearing? Sorry Jimmy, I didn't mean to laugh at you. Sorry. Alright friends, before we move on to this next spot, if you are loving this list and you want even more multiversal tales, let us know that you love it by giving this video a thumbs up. And also let us know in the comments what other multiversal tales you have loved or you have thought are super weird, or that you loved and thought were weird. I mean, they don't have to be mutually exclusive. Number 8. Tales from the Dark Multiverse, Wonder Woman, War of the Gods. I don't even know what to really make of this multiversal story. All I can tell you is buckle in because this Dark Multiverse story is... yeah, dark. To be fair to this one shot though, I don't really even know what to make of the War of the Gods story in the main continuity, which I also found a little confusing, so it makes sense that this is where I would be as well with the Dark Multiverse version. A little confused. In this story, the Amazons of Themyscira end up in a war with the United States. When Diana is pulled into a battle with Hecate as a result of these events, where in the main continuity Hecate was defeated by Wonder Woman's lasso of truth, here she just ends up planting a seed within Diana's mind. Diana defeats her, but only temporarily. Following the death of Hippolyta, her mother, Diana is left weak, fearful, alone, and resentful, and this is when Hecate is able to take over. Unable to free her, all of Wonder Woman's friends die trying to. The only way to contain Hecate Wonder Woman is with magic, and many of her magical colleagues actually die in the attempt to do so. Hecate as such ends up chained, but of course so is Diana, unable to find the hope to escape her own internal prison. Of course, like most dark multiversal tales, we end on a pretty dark and tragic note. But that's okay, Zatanna's never gonna give up. Number 7. JLA Act of God. Admittedly, this is a cool premise, but it just doesn't make a lot of sense, which is what's weird about it. In JLA Act of God, an Elseworlds 3-issue miniseries, we get to explore a world where all the heroes of Earth have simultaneously lost their powers. Well, at least almost all of them anyways. How did this happen? Black light? Somehow the world being hit with a flash of black light results in almost everyone losing their powers. I guess normally superheroes don't go to raves or anything, where black light is, I feel like, very common. Although this is attributed to the black light, some might call it an act of God. A later on, very suddenly, devoutly Christian Diana Prince at least would probably claim that. Diana, haven't you met gods? How does that make sense? What's really ridiculous is in the first issue, as we go through the moment this happened, the world over, we get to see just how diverse not only everyone's powers are, but also when it comes to the source of their powers, just how diverse it is. In one page we go from Steel losing complete control of his systems and suit as he plummets to his doom, to Aquaman losing his ability to connect with the creatures of the sea telepathically and his ability to breathe underwater. At the same time, Kyle Rayner also has lost control of his Green Lantern ring, which seems to now just be, I guess, a really unique and trendy looking accessory. How could a flash of black light affect almost everyone in this same way? Like I said, it's a cool premise, kinda wonky execution though. How is Steel affected by this? Didn't Steel make his suit? I'm confused. Number 6. Facets. What happens when we get to see the Teen Titans as they be in a fantasy setting? Well, a whole lot of weirdness. Raven of course ends up evil, known as a deadly and beautiful sorceress, Queen Raven. She creates her own loyal servant and accomplice with Victor Stone, or at least she tries to, transforming him permanently into a cyborg. It turns out this isn't all that Raven's been up to though. She has a whole collection of prisoners whom she has transformed in some way, and when Cyborg refuses to join her, she also contemplates holding him there with the rest of them. So apparently she does this a lot. Seems like her deals with people don't usually work out. I guess she's just hoping that one day that'll change. She's like, I'll just keep doing it. Eventually someone will be loyal to me. If I try it enough times, it's gotta work. In this story, Coriander is a prisoner of some goblin mages who use cosmic energy to transform her into Starfire. The comic features an all-out battle between Raven and Starfire, joined of course by the rest of the Titans. Nightwing goes on a trip inside Phantasm's cloak, literally looks like he's tripping out, and eventually Trigon joins the party when he is summoned by his daughter Raven. You can check it all out in the 1994 New Titans Annual. It's weird. It's definitely weird. Also, some of these outfits are interesting. Number 5. Superman at Earth's End. I don't even know where to begin with this comic. Oh boy. Okay, so Superman here is one of the first iterations of course, the old man heroes to come that we've come to love so much. See, before there was Old Man Logan, there was Old Man Supes. In this Elseworld story, we are in a post-apocalyptic future where machines rule supreme and mutants basically run amok. Also, there is an army of Batmen and vicious biker gangs because, I mean, why not? The year I believe is 2102, so possibly this is what we'll be dealing with in just over 80 years time. Honestly, the way things are going, I could maybe see that being our future. Superman is recharging and recuperating his strength when he hears about the plan to nuke Gotham City. He aims to save the city, but of course without doing any killing, because you know, he's Superman. And of course, no guns, because he's Superman. Except for the part where he uses guns to kill people. Except for that part. Mostly robo and really bad people though, so I guess for Supes it doesn't count. It features the famous "I am a man" memeable moment, which actually was shouted in response to an android by the way, so out of context it's really weird, but within context it actually kinda makes some sense. It's still pretty weird, but it's not as weird. Also, shortly after claiming that he doesn't need weapons, Superman chooses to wield a ridiculous mega gun known as the Expunger. It's crazy. I just love that he's like, I don't need weapons because I have powers. I would never do that. And then flip to 2 pages later and he's like, look at this giant expunger, I'm gonna use this mega gun. Number 4. All-Star Batman and Robin. Not so much a story as a full series, but I have other full series on this list, so it's fine. All-Star Batman and Robin consists of 10 issues, all of which are pretty weird when it comes to the depiction and characterization of a lot of our favorite superheroes, villains, and their allies even. Once again, we get a super jacked version of Joker in this comic. We also get a version of Vicky Vale who seems far more obsessed with Superman's manhood and dates with Bruce Wayne than any kind of serious reporting. And of course, then there are Batman and Robin. What a dynamic. Batman in this comic is the worst kind of hero, an entitled one. This is the version who refers to himself as the goddamn Batman and makes Dick eat rats and sleep in the Batcave initially. Because he's Batman, and he can do that. He also torments Hal Jordan, Green Lantern, by painting himself, Robin, and the entire room and corridor yellow, and also serves and consumes yellow food and drink around him, with Batman enjoying some lemonade and Robin devouring what appears to be an all-yellow ice cream cone. All-Star Batman and Robin has to be one of the weirdest multiverses out there. And every time I go back to it, I'm like, what is happening? What is this characterization? Number 3, JLA created equal. Okay, so All-Star Batman and Robin is the not so great kind of weird, but JLA created equal is just the weird kind of weird. In this 2-part Elseworld story, we get a glimpse into a world where all the men, or almost all the men, were killed off by an unexpected and sudden plague. The only 2 left alive are Superman and Lex Luthor in this reality, and yet for all the powerful women who remain, this book sure manages to still be about the male characters within it. In Created Equal, Superman attempts to help the rest of the new, almost all-female JLA figure out a way to repopulate the Earth. I say almost because Superman's still there, so yeah. The main concern is how to ensure the survival of the human male gender, as if they made clones, with their technology and resources, they'd actually only be able to produce female ones. I guess they can't like tamper with the genes, they can't like tamper with the DNA, or I don't know how you make clones anyway, so I probably shouldn't tell other people how to do it. Eventually, Lois Lane and Clark Kent end up conceiving a son who is born and named Adam. He accidentally hugs his mother to death, and then Lex, being Lex, unleashes a plan to take control of all the young men who were created and raised on Themyscira, thanks to Adam's existence and his resilience. Also, he makes them all bald, because this is Lex Luthor, so yeah. Oh, what a weird story. Come and join me, and also I'll be bald, because you all have lovely hair and it offends me. Number 2, a Batman Reptilian. Ah yes, the story of an alien baby that belongs to Killer Croc because he was influenced by aliens while inside his mother's womb, which is how he's even mutated and also makes him like, I guess, a hybrid alien-human creation technically. In this beautiful yet bizarre story, Batman is attempting to track down whoever is killing all of his rogues. What he finds out though is that it isn't any one of the other villains, but Croc's baby that he just gave birth to. Killer Croc, of course, didn't know that he could do that. I mean, neither did we. It turns out that this is a result of him being part alien in origin, or being tampered with by aliens when he was like a fetus. The newborn babe, it turns out, just wants its mama, but for what purpose remains to be seen. Killer Croc can't nurture it, as you know, he doesn't have like the biological equipment for that. After we get through that whole slog of that's not gonna work, it's also implied that the giant alien monster baby wants Croc to mate with it, which is also thankfully out of the question when it comes to Croc's willingness, so thank goodness, because I thought this better not be where this is going, oh my goodness. Did I mention that Batman is also a huge jerk throughout this entire series? Cause yeah, this is Garth Ennis behind the writing wheel, and that is very much a thing. Which I'm not surprised by, that's kind of Ennis' whole thing, so yeah. I actually like Batman being a butt in that story more than I like him being a butt in Frank Miller's All-Star, so yeah. Number 1, Batman Last Night on Earth. This one was where the thumb came from in part 1 of this list. I had intended to actually include this story there, but then I got distracted by the Batman and Lobo crossover. Understandably so, I think, because that's also super weird. But that's fine, because it just means that Last Night on Earth gets a higher spot on this list of bizarre multiversal DC stories. Batman Last Night on Earth is a book that exists outside of the continuity and belongs to the DC Black Label line. Also, Reptilian is part of that same line, just so you know. Black Label primarily is made up of titles that are more adult in terms of their content and their themes. Here, that translates to Batman wearing a straitjacket version of his suit in a post-apocalyptic future, where Joker is just a head in a jar. They also end up fighting giant monster baby Green Lantern constructs in issue number 1, just to give you a sense of the level of weird that we're dealing with here. But it's like a fun weird. It's like a, I'd recommend this weird. I give it 2 weird thumbs up.
At number 10, what if JJ adopted Peter Parker? In this world, John Jonah Jameson, known for his fiery hatred of Spider-Man, actually becomes Peter Parker's adopted father. In this alternate reality, tragedy strikes as Jameson's son's Mars expedition ends in catastrophe, leading him to take Peter under his wing after the loss of Aunt May in the same accident. Jameson's wealth and influence catapult Peter into a world of privilege, sending him to the prestigious Phillips Academy and making him the assistant editor of the Reviel, Jameson's weekly newspaper. However, Jameson's obsession with Spider-Man remains intact, blaming the web slinger for the rocket crash due to the discovery of his webbing at the scene. This obsession leads to the creation of the Spider Slayer robot and the Scorpion suit, along with a hefty bounty on Spider-Man's head. When Flash Thompson becomes the Scorpion in a misguided attempt to protect Spider-Man, chaos ensues and Peter eventually reveals his secret identity in a fit of anger. What follows is a twist in the tale as Jameson, realizing the consequences of his vendetta, remotely piloted the Spider Slayer to save Peter from a group of supervillains. In a surprising turn of events, Jameson and Peter form an unlikely superhero duo operating out of the Daily Bugle. In the end, the thought of expanding Jameson and Son Heroes for Hire as a coast-to-coast superhero franchise lingers in Jameson's mind despite Peter's attempts to dissuade him. This is a character arc for the ages, you guys. At number 9, Jessica Jones joins the Avengers. Don't hold your breath if you want to see Jessica Jones in the Avengers, because apparently that only happens in one universe, and the way it happens, super freaking weird. In this reality, Jessica Jones doesn't have that immunity to Purple Man's mind control powers, and so after making her do terrible things for like 8 months, he eventually decides to finally use her against Daredevil. Somehow she gets confused and goes to the Avengers mansion instead and attacks a similarly dressed Scarlet Witch. The Avengers knock her around senselessly until she wakes up in the hospital after spending weeks in a coma, and the Avengers are apparently so ashamed that they decide to extend an offer to join the team. Seriously, that's how she joined the team. Not her insane investigative skills or the fact that in this reality she's mastered the power of flight and strength. Nope, they gave her a pity invite because they were impressed she survived the beating. Good lord. If you're enjoying this video so far, you can support the channel by pressing like, subscribing to Top 10 Nerd, and ringing that notification bell. At number 8, Kang nukes Earth. In the very first page of this Avengers issue, Storm is introduced as an Avenger, but unfortunately this crossover is very short-lived. Hercules and Colossus are there too, but not for long. Iron Man finally shows up and gives a gift to the president, but there's a disturbance in the crowd as what looks to be like Tony Stark attempts to rush the president, warning that Iron Man is an imposter, and oops, too late. The president yanks the box open and the miniature nuke goes off, wiping out the Avengers and leveling the entire city, all according to Kang's plan, who had been wearing Iron Man's suit. But what Kang didn't account for was the fact that US forces immediately retaliated to what they presumed to be a Soviet attack, thus sparking a thermonuclear war of which Kang was the sole survivor. Not much left to conquer now, eh buddy? At number 7 is Spider-Rex. You probably saw Spider-Rex cameo in the Spider-Verse movie, but for those of you who haven't read his Origins comic, it begins in a prehistoric Earth where a T-Rex named Norman Osborn. Just as a Norman Osborn dinosaur was about to take a bite out of Parker, bam! A meteorite crashes down, and it's not your ordinary space rock, it's filled with alien spiders. These cosmic arachnids do something wild. They actually swap Norman and Peter Parker's bodies and give them some spiffy costumes to boot. Now Norman's mind is in the pterodactyl thing, and vice versa. Chaos ensues as they try to figure out their newfound powers. Parker, now a T-Rex with spider abilities, takes on Norman and his gang, realizing the responsibility that comes with his newfound strength. At number 6 is Otterman. Kal-El, the son of Ted Turner and Jane Fonda, time travels from the 51st century to good old 2002 using a makeshift time machine made of PlayStation 1 parts and Atari controllers. Why? Because his hometown is being obliterated by meteors, of course. Now once Kal-El arrives in the present, he just kinda does stuff. And let me tell you folks, there is nothing in this storyline that connects to anything else, and none of it makes a lick of sense. Occasionally, some familiar Marvel heroes drop by and also do stuff, but guess what? None of that makes sense either. But the piece de la resistance is Cal and his group go way back to 100,000 BCE, where they witness an otter evolving into none other than Wolverine, the mutant hero we all know and love. That's right, an otter. And it turns out that this otter is the father of the entire human race. Yeah, somebody actually wrote this. So if you're up for a ride that defies all logic and reason, give Marvel a whirl. At number 5 is Spider-May. Instead of Peter Parker, Aunt May gets the radioactive spider bite. Yeah, Granny became a superhero. Talk about winning bingo night. May, just like Parker, initially thinks about cashing in on her newfound powers, trying to use them to earn some extra money, which is pretty relatable. But here's the twist. She eventually decides to use her abilities for good all on her own without Uncle Ben having to drop any wisdom bombs. The result? Uncle Ben lives a long, happy life. No, with great power comes great responsibility talk needed. It's like a heartwarming alternate universe that makes you think about the ripple effects of every decision in the Marvel multiverse. At number 4 is Steve Rogers. There's this universe where the Purple Man, the Marvel mind control villain, not to be confused with the purple guy from FNAF, rises to power in America, wiping out all the superheroes. Only Captain America remains, determined to stand against the tyranny. But the twist? Purple Man sends Cap back in time to the 17th century, specifically 1602, where he presumably won't do anything to foil his plans. Clearly the man has never read a comic book. Now in the past, we find a very acclimated Steve Rogers staying with Native Americans. Taking on the name Rogers, he strangely adopts the stilted speech patterns stereotypically associated with Native Americans in less enlightened times. It's an uncomfortable aspect of the story, highlighting the problematic portrayals of the past. However, amidst the discomfort, there is a silver lining. Dinosaurs. Yep, you've heard me right. In this Marvel multiverse, dinosaurs roam alongside our time-displaced hero, because I guess they never went extinct in this reality. So at least there are some epic dinosaur battles to juxtapose the cringe. Dinosaurs are always cool, no matter the timeline. At number 3, Milady, 'tis the clobbering hour. The multiverse, already a mind-bending realm of infinite possibilities, gets an extra layer of crazy thanks to Mr. Fantastic's curiosity. He's on a quest to find versions of Earth where the whole Superhuman Registration Act debacle didn't turn into a civil war. But wouldn't you know it, a pesky power outage messes everything up, and bam, reality is on the fritz. Now in this topsy-turvy multiverse mishap, you've got the Invisible Woman, but she's no longer the ordinary Sue Storm. No, now she's Queen Storm, and she's ruling over a medieval world with an iron grip. Her trusty sidekicks are her brother and the Thing. But hold on to your spandex, or shall I say unstable particles, because thanks to Mr. Fantastic's meddling, this universe ends up merging with others, giving us a collab between these guys and Fantastic Four versions that are pirates, cowboys, and World War II soldiers. It's a freaking crossover of the century. At number 2 is Marvel Zombies Destroy. We all know about the Marvel Zombies universe where we get to see our favorite heroes eating each other, but it's not the only Marvel Zombies reality in the multiverse. There's a mind-bending storyline released in 2012 which explores a chilling alternate reality where the Axis powers emerged victorious in World War II, but by doing so in a horrifying way. You see, they did so by becoming ravenous zombies. Now picture this. Zombie fascists, not content with consuming just our world, but now hungry for multiversal domination. Enter the unlikely duo of Howard the Duck and good old Earth's Dum Dum Dugan, tasked with preventing this nightmarish invasion. And since our main continuity remains uninfested by the undead Third Reich, I'm gonna take a guess and say they succeeded. At number 1 is realism. Superhero comics often dive headfirst into fantastic realms filled with magic, aliens, and some questionable science. But what if we injected a dose of realism into the mix? Warren Ellis did just that in 1995 with Ruins, a 2-part story that brutally dissected the real-life consequences of radioactive spider bites and massive radiation exposure. Now picture this. Instead of transforming into the mighty Hulk, Bruce Banner succumbs to cancer. Professor X, rather than leading the X-Men, uses his secret mental powers to become the president who brutally suppresses mutants. There's no escape from the agony. Every beloved Marvel character is either already deceased, on their way to becoming deceased, or wishing they were deceased. It's a colossal downer, no sugarcoating it. This twisted take on the Marvel multiverse brings a stark reminder that even in the world of heroes, reality can be unforgiving and grim.
Alright, number 10, Batmite. If you've heard of the extremely weirdly named Mr. Mxyzptlk, then you have a small understanding of the reality warping imps who inhabit the 5th dimension. This Batman megafan is basically a small childlike imp who wears a loosely fitting homemade batsuit with a black lightning bolt symbol. But don't let his goofy looks trick you. He has nearly limitless magical abilities. He's not technically a hero, but he's also definitely not strictly a villain. A being of this level of power can't really be either because there's no way it would lose in whatever it wanted to do. He idolizes Batman and just wants to see him in action. So when Batman gets angry with him for being a nuisance, he usually sets things straight and just leaves, which is honestly kind of adorable. Number 9. Dino Cop. We have a few anthropomorphized characters on this list, but none of the others are dinosaurs. Dino Cop is from Earth 41, which is an Earth containing characters who are all pastiches of heroes from Image Comics. He is Rex Stegman, a humanoid dinosaur-like character who is also a police officer, supposed to be the DC equivalent to Savage Dragon. He is absolutely dedicated to preserving the peace in his undinosaur blue-collar worker way. He teams up with another superhero from Earth 41, Spore, who is supposed to be like Spawn, but more planty. I don't think his powers really matter too much when we talk about the weirdness of this character, but they are super strength. That's kind of it. He has increased stamina and is kind of pretty intelligent, but you know, nothing super. I think a dinosaur man hybrid police officer is weird enough to make this list on his own, so there you go. Number 8, the Magic Lantern. So take Shaggy from Scooby-Doo and give him the powers of Green Lantern and you've got the Magic Lantern of Earth 47. When it's groovy, when it's grim, we hum the living guru's hymn. When other lanterns lose their shit, we keep the Magic Lantern lit. I'm sure it's not the only thing that's lit. I wish I could just make this point a bunch of the stoner Green Lantern quotes. Hostility is for squares. Get with the blueprint. Are we groovy? Or do I gotta kick your non-Euclidean alien butts into the galaxy next door? The Magic Lantern is the Green Lantern to the Earth 47 Justice League, known as the Love Syndicate, whose members include Sunshine Superman, Shooting Star instead of Batman, Speed Freak, Brother Power, and the Geek. And they first appeared in Animal Man number 23, and were expanded upon in the Multiversity Guidebook. And every time I see them, I just wanna be a part of it. Number 7, Danny the Street. Yeah, no, I think this is the wildest concept for a hero I have ever heard of. In case you didn't clue in, or for that matter, actually didn't believe it, Danny the Street is a living sentient street who can teleport to any city in the world. He was first introduced in Doom Patrol Volume 2, number 35 in 1990, and his main purpose and drive in this world is to bring happiness to those who inhabit whatever city he is currently at, giving those who have nowhere to go a place to rest their heads. It's nice. He likes to cross-dress and dress himself in nice pink frilly decorations on some of his buildings, including weapon stores. He eventually became the headquarters of Doom Patrol. At one point, he grew to be Danny the World, and then he was deconstructed down to just Danny the Brick, and was even just the humble Danny the Alley at one point. Even saying that sentence makes me feel like, what am I doing with my life? I'm talking about awesome sentient streets. Mom would be proud. Number 6. David Dibble. David Dibble dibble-dabbled in some kind of dubious scientific debauchery which decidedly turned him into Dig Dabby. Turned him into Big Baby, otherwise known as Behemoth. Hailing from Earth 8, where there are characters that seem to be DC's parody for Marvel characters. As part of the Retaliators, genius alternate name for the Avengers, Behemoth is basically the Hulk, turning from a scientist into an extremely strong monster. Only the unfortunately named David Dibble, instead of turning into a green savage beast, turns into a giant blue mega baby. While he used to have a dumbed down intelligence when transformed, he has managed to recover his intelligence over time, just like how Marvel's Green Goliath did the same. The baby part of this is probably the strangest part, but it does reflect how Hulk basically acts like a tantruming toddler when he transforms. Number 5. Etrigan, or Etrigan, or Etrigon, or Etrigan. He could be considered really, really cool, or really, really weird, honestly. Etrigan rocketed to an Earth of eternal twilight from the doomed planet of Camelot. Who does that sound like? Maybe another hero who rocketed to Earth from another planet that starts with a K? They sound similar because Etrigan is an alternate version of Superman, with quote-unquote overnatural abilities. From Earth 13, a planet of the supernatural and occult. Etrigan fights evil in Merlin's name, alongside the League of Shadows as the Super Demon. Together, the League of Shadows faced off against an invasion of super vampires. And later, Etrigan became part of the Supermen of the Multiverse, targeted by Prophecy, and allies with them to come up with a plan to free the other alternate Supermen. A demon Superman is weird, but he won't be the weirdest alternate Superman to hit this list. Number 4. Yankee Poodle. I think I could effectively choose any one of the characters from the animal universe of Earthsea for this point, but of all the characters a part of the Zoo crew, Ali Cadabra, Captain Carrot, Little Cheese, none really make me say, what? quite like Yankee Poodle. Gossip journalist Rova Barkett, an anthropomorphic poodle, see what I did there, would moonlight as Yankee Poodle, a superhero with the powers of magnetic manipulation that for some reason allowed her to shoot semi-solidified electromagnetic blue-colored stars with her right hand, push things away, and generate red and white stripes with her left hand in order to bring things to her. I don't know. If she put these powers together though, she can generate highly destructive magnoblasts. But for me, the best use of her power is she could travel by forming a ramp of stripes in front of her while propelling herself along it by shooting stars behind her. No, I didn't make any of that up. Just so we're clear on that. Number 3, Robert Rogers. This one has got a fun little twist. So, back in 2002, DC teamed up with Stan Lee of Marvel Comics fame, and together they released the Just Imagine series, which is basically, why don't we let Stan Lee come and make a bunch of characters with the ideas of DC characters? It is actually honestly a great idea. One of those characters ended up being Robert Rogers from Just Imagine Shazam #1. And yes, he is Stan Lee's Shazam. When I tell you he is absolutely nothing like the regular Shazam, I ain't kidding. I mean, other than saying Shazam to activate his powers. For starters, he is not a kid. He is actually an agent with Interpol, and he is assigned to the tough agent Carla Noral, who together go to India to hunt down criminal Gunga Khan. Secondly, he is empowered by the wizard Merlin to hunt down Morgana Le Fay. And finally, when he yells the word Shazam, he transforms into a giant, hairy, red-fanged creature with a necklace of bones. Gosh, I love Stan Lee. Number 2, Milkman Man. The DC Universe Wiki says that Milkman Man is an imperfect copy of Superman. Excuse me, DC Wiki? This is an improved copy of Superman. All that calcium, strongest bones you've ever seen. I bet. In JLA/Doom Patrol special, the Doom Patrol has discovered that an interdimensional corporation called Retco has been stealing stories, reconfiguring them, and repackaging them for new markets. Retco has embedded itself into the current continuity, using the radioactive milk of psychic cows to quell the more dangerous impulses of the Justice League and turn them into heroes safe for the masses. That is literally the quote from the official summary. I am not even joking. Milkman Man has all the same powers as the famous Kryptonian superhero, only he's a milkman, and central part of the Community League of Rhode Island, a sinister group of pleasant-spoken normal folks. Please just do yourself the favor of reading this story and trying to figure out what the heck is going on. Number 1, KFC. Okay, it's weird enough that we have Colonel Sanders in the mainline continuity, but after his adversary Colonel Sanders takes the memory of all but the second of KFC's 11 herbs and spices from Sanders' brain, he is visited by Colonel Arla Sanders of Earth 11, who relays some information. 1. Apparently, every Colonel Sanders variant in the multiverse is close with the Flash of that universe, which is weird. Number 2, she remembers a different herb and or spice from the recipe, meaning every alternate Colonel will remember a different herb or spice, which is weirder. And number 3, with the help of her Flash and her cosmic treadmill, they're going across the multiverse to form the multiversal team of Colonel Sanders, which is the weirdest part. There's Colonel Gaslight, Colnell from Kingdom Come, the future Colonel Ladd, Bizarro Colonel, Teen Titans Colonel, Comrade Sanders, and a Wild West Sanders. But my absolute favorite, and one that should make absolutely no sense, and if you really think about it, is kind of sick and twisted, is the anthropomorphic Chicken Sanders from the post-apocalyptic Earth 51, whose second line is literally Bach! Appetite. What the Bach? Number 10, the Wonder Twins. Oh, super friends. Sometimes you just introduce characters that are only a good idea in a kids show. Jaina and Zan are alien twin sister and brother from the planet Exor, who have these super cool sounding power rings that activate when they fist bump and say Wonder Twins power activate. It sounds so cool, and it sorta is. Jaina can turn into any animal she chooses with her power. That's neat, but it's not as spectacular for Zan, who can only turn into water in one of its forms. He can turn into H2O, steam, or ice. Honestly, I could see it being used in some pretty cool ways, which is why they are so high up on this list, but still rather unique. Number 9. Doll Man. Alright, so we take the G.I. Joe toy and Jada Pinkett Smith and we will make them superheroes. With the power to shrink down to 6 inches tall while retaining the strength of a full-grown man, Daryl Dane, Doll Man, with his partner Martha Roberts, Doll Girl, is a founding member of the Freedom Fighters. He would fight crime during the 1940s and in World War II. That was when he first appeared in All-Star Squadron No. 60 in August of 1986. More recently, the power of size manipulation had a psychological effect on him, causing causing him to be confined to a mental institution and then trapped in his 6-inch size with other soldiers of similar height in a miniature world. Until, get this, they fuse together as a mega monster form which just looks and sounds terrifying. Anyone ever seen Toy Soldiers? I love that movie back in the day. I am Archer, emissary of the Gorgonites. No, I'm Adam, emissary of Top 10 Nerd. And if you're enjoying this video so far, don't forget to smack that like button. It helps us know that you like us, right? I don't know. Number 8. Prez Rickard, a teenager born to literally become president. He was the youngest president ever elected thanks to the lower eligibility age in his comic book, Prez #1 in 1973. As the young president, he fought legless vampires, a right-wing militia led by the descendants of George Washington, and evil chess players. His powers include advanced hand-to-hand combat, leadership, political science, and a healthy dash of charisma. His mother, Martha, another DC Martha mom, was his vice president, with his sister becoming his secretary and his Native American friend Eagle Free being appointed as head of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Honestly, a pretty strange character, but also super inspiring, especially for younger readers, I'm guessing. Number 7. Uncle Sam, the spirit of America, bound to a talisman created by the founding fathers in an occult ritual, who would take physical form by merging with a dying patriot. And he needs you and your money. Pretty please. He lives as long as America does and has taken part in every American conflict. He was the Minuteman in the Revolutionary War. In the Civil War, he split into two, Johnny Reb and Billy Yank, and in 1870 he officially became the Uncle Sam we all know and recognize. He's fought in World War I and World War II. Unsurprisingly, Uncle Sam's powers are proportionate to the United States' faith in the ideals of liberty and freedom. And that list of powers is long, so of course I will struggle to list them all out for you. Possession, immortality, interdimensional teleportation, invulnerability, limited clairvoyance, super leaping, size alteration, superhuman reflexes, superhuman speed, superhuman stamina, and last but not least, superhuman strength. Oh, and most importantly, he can detect the whereabouts of patriotic objects like the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence. So watch out, Nicolas Cage. Number 6. Canterbury Cricket. After The Flash rewrote history in Flashpoint, this interesting character came to be in Flashpoint The Canterbury Cricket #1 in 2011. Jeremy Cricky, not to be confused with Jiminy Cricket, I'm sure, was a university student and con man until the Amazons attacked the country of England. He takes refuge in the Canterbury Cathedral but was tracked by an Amazonian soldier. He begs for his life from God when boom chicka bow, a flash of light appears caused by boo booms dropped from the Amazon ships. And when the dust settles, Jeremy has become the giant anthropomorphized cricket. Honestly, the newly dubbed Canterbury Cricket, Jeremy had become a patriotic hero, fighting for England until his last cricket chirp. Truly the best representation of the nation. America gets Uncle Sam, England gets a cricket. Number 5. Flex Mentallo. I mentioned the Doom Patrol in the last video, but we didn't actually talk about any of their members. We honestly should. One member, who I think deserves to make it onto this list, is Flex Mentallo. Flex here has the mysterious and hilarious power of muscle mystery, which allows him to alter reality by flexing different muscles. For example, flexing his scalenus minimus, Flex has the ability to survive in the vacuum of space for an extended amount of time. His other powers include enhanced senses, mind control, precognition, reality alteration, superhuman durability, superhuman strength, and telepathy. He is a close friend of Danny the Street, who was also in the last video, and his reviews on Google note him to be sweet and helpful. He first appeared in Doom Patrol in Volume 2, number 35 in 1990, and I think my favorite piece of art is the one with the title of Hero of the Beach, with someone in the background going, it's Flex Mentallo. Number 4. Dog Welder. Now look, weird isn't always pleasant. Unfortunately, for all of us, Dog Welder is about as bad as he sounds. He's a crime fighter, yes, a do-gooder, who haunts and maims evildoers by welding no longer living dogs to them. Dog Welder is a mysterious and demented member of Section 8, a superhero team, and he first appears in Hitman number 18. He keeps his face hidden behind a welding mask, and we never learn his true identity, but he seems to live in an alleyway that he sets traps for animals in. He also seems to have an endless supply of dogs of the afterlife to stick to people's faces. Even though he is apparently a hero, I think we can all breathe a sigh of relief knowing he met his demise in Section 8's final battle, and we don't need to see him again, ever. Alright, let's move on. Number 3. Matter Eater Lad. When an alien race has all their food infected by microbes, instead of going extinct, as you might expect, they evolve to be able to eat unlimited amounts of any form of matter to survive instead. Yes, welcome to Planet Pepto-Bismol. Oh, Sorry, no, just Bismol. Home to Legion of Superheroes member Tenzil Kem, better known as Matter Eater Lad. The 15th member to join the Legion, Matter Eater has an ability you just wouldn't think would be useful. But if you get stuck inside somewhere, I can guarantee you want this guy on your team. He can eat through literally anything due to digestive enzymes. Thanks to how comic books just are, this ability has become more and more useful and in very random ways. For example, Bismolians don't possess any other superpowers really, but the ability to eat tons and tons of anything and digest it in literally seconds apparently translates into food energy that can give them, oh I don't know, super speed for example. Or like when he ate through a whole asteroid in minutes. I just don't want to imagine how his bathroom breaks go. No thanks. Number 2, Liesl Pon. The Green Lantern Corps, actually every Lantern Corps really, has members of all different shapes and sizes. But what utterly baffles me personally is knowing the Green Lanterns have a super intelligent, justice-seeking smallpox virus on their roster. Assigned to Section 119, Liesl wasn't really able to join the other Lanterns in team meetings on the Green Lantern world. For the same reason your boss asks you to stay home if you've got a cold. The Green Lanterns aren't trying to get sick, really. Liesl Pon's partner in Sector 119 was Remus. Because Remus was a fatal victim of Despotellus, who is also a sentient virus, but part of the Yellow Lantern Corps, so evil. Despotellus infected Guy Gardner, and wanting revenge for the attack on her sector and the loss of Remus, Liesl Pon entered into Guy, and the two battled with Liesl Pon, defeating the virus and capturing Despotellus, who Liesl brought back to Oa, the Green Lantern Corps Dr. Saranic Natu, to work on a vaccine for. Number 1, Red Bee. When I think of all the animals that would make good sidekicks or super pets, bees are not my first choice. Think about it. As soon as they sting you, that's it. You need another bee to replace that one. Well, ain't it just the fitting coincidence that the trained bees used by Red Bee are a species of bee that don't die when they sting people. Not wasps though. They're bees, okay? Not wasps. Richard Raleigh, the first Red Bee, was a superhero during World War II that used a weapon that fired a sting shot. Ouch! And inside his utility belt, he carried a swarm of bees that he would use against villains. Again, someone tell Nicolas Cage to watch out. He first appeared in Hit Comics #1 in the 1940s. The second Red Bee would be his great niece, Jenna Raleigh. This Red Bee used 2 mechanical bees that fire electricity, a tech suit, and was mutated by alien insects to produce pheromones that she can use to control her bees. At least that makes more sense than training a colony of bees. Right? I don't know. Alright, you little nerds, there you have it. You know how it goes. If you